Hi, this is Janet Swanson. I am here today to encourage you, inspire you, and cheer you on, and to let you know you deserve to be happy, to be healed, and to live your life in freedom. Free from the pain of your past, free from fear, free from all those voices that tell you, I can't. So, let's break the silence and expose the darkness that has held you in confinement way too long. Your life matters. Your story matters. Your voice matters. I believe in you. And most of all, God believes in you. Welcome to One Voice Makes a Difference podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to One Voice Makes a Difference podcast. This is episode 4, and today we have LaKeidre Lee with us, and she is the executive director of the Teal House right here in Statesboro, Georgia. And she's going to bring us some real life stories, aren't you, LaKeidre?
I am. Thank you, Pastor Swanson, for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Well, first of all, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got connected with the Teal House and why.
Okay. Well, my name is LaKeidre Lee. I am a native of Statesboro, Georgia. Here I went to school. I left back in 1998, went to college, and I majored in social work and sociology, and I got my degree there, and I began my experience working with children, neglected children, children of sexual assault, when I interned at Richmond County DFAC. So that was basically my first true live experience of having to deal with cases. Children dealing with neglect and sexual abuse. So I came back, and then I got my master's in social work from Savannah State University, and I have about 15 years of experience working with children here in our local community here in Statesboro. So I got connected with the Teal House. I'm a former school social worker. So I got connected with the Teal House because Diane Hardy, which is the director of DFACS here in Statesboro, I serve on that board, and she was looking for, she's also on the board at the Teal House. So they were looking for an executive director, and at that time, dealing with the school, there was a lot of changes. So I asked the Lord, if this was a good move for me, then help me, just open up this door, and he did. So I've been there, and I haven't looked back.
Wow.
I haven't looked back.
That's awesome. So you deal with a lot of troubled kids on a daily basis.
I do.
Wow.
On a daily basis, right here in our community.
Well, what is the secret that you have that how do you deal with these kids on a regular basis and then take it home? And how do you, your emotions, how do you deal with those emotions that you have?
Let me tell you, it's not easy.
I bet.
Going to school, everybody says self-care, but as a social worker, and you have a child that's sitting in front of you that has disclosed that the person that they trust has touched them inappropriately, has assaulted them. You can't just not take it home with you, right. But you do have to take care of yourself. So for me, self-care is important. Before I open up the doors every day at the Teal House, I pray. My source, I connect to my Father, God. I connect to Him every day.
Yes.
Because walking in those doors, I never know what I'm going to encounter.
That's right.
Leaving out, going home, I never know what I'm going to encounter with my phone, because we're 24/7. The Teal House is not just a 8 to 5 that you clock in. We're available to victims 24/7, which means when I'm physically not in the office, my cell phone can ring with someone on the other line. So I have to be mentally and emotionally prepared for those that are coming into the Teal House, as well as those that I will encounter over the phone. So I definitely do a lot of praying. I definitely do a lot of self-care in regards to some days if I want to eat a Chick-fil-A sandwich that's going to make me feel good. That's what I do. If I want to take
that
a
always
walk in
makes
the
me
park,
feel better.
I know. I had a cop tell me that's the Lord's chicken, so it's
That's
okay.
Right. That's it.
So I remain positive and focused, and also encourage my staff to do the same thing, because
awesome.
the work that we do on a daily basis is not easy.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you do on a daily basis. What happens from Monday through Friday?
Okay. Well, let me just say the Teal house is not an actual house where victims come and stay. A lot of people think that it's a house where we house people. The Teal house is more of a crisis center where victims come, they find refuge, they get the help that they need, and the help to include forensic medical examinations, forensic interviews, counseling services to help them along the healing journey. So if we get what we call a case that comes in, we never know. So we walk in the doors 9 o'clock, we can have 2 or 3 cases that are lined up from the previous night or the previous days. We never know. So at that point in time, either law enforcement or the Department of Family and Children's Services, if we're dealing with children, but if we're dealing with adults, primarily it's law enforcement, if they choose to report. Basically, we offer them the services that we provide. Either they can do an interview or a forensic medical examination, and basically that medical examination includes collecting evidence, DNA, for prosecution. So on a daily basis, Pastor Swanson, that's what we at the Teal House do. We comfort victims. We have advocates there that provide emotional support, because when they come to us, they're afraid that nobody believes them. We believe survivors.
That's right.
That's our motto. We believe survivors. So my advocates, myself, my nurses, on a daily basis, when we encounter victims, we tell them this is not your fault. What has happened to you, is not your fault. So we say that 10 to 15 times a day until they really believe that what has happened is actually not their fault.
Wow, that is so powerful. And I want you to know, coming from a survivor, I remember when I was 12 years old, and I finally had the courage to pick up the phone and call the police and tell them what was happening to me. And for 2 years, I had been molested by my stepfather. But I was so afraid of him because he was violent. He was violent with my mom. He was an alcoholic. He was a mean drunk. And I had seen him beat my brothers, and he had beaten me. He had been abusing me and beat my mother. And he had guns. You know, he was in the army. And I thought, you know, he's going to kill me if I say anything. And I was just really afraid of him. But I had a revelation one night that I'm dying anyway, so I might as well just say something. And so the first thing that I did is I picked up the phone and I called the police and I let them know. And they said they were going to come out and that I needed to tell my mom. And I was really afraid to tell my mom. And the first thing that my mom said was, "I don't believe you."
Right.
And it just crushed my world. Everything, my heart was so broken. And so I remember going, the police come and pick me up, and I go to the social worker. And I remember the counselor, she saw how I held my head down, and I walked in defeated and with tears streaming down her face. I will never forget this. It was like she was an angel. She put her hand underneath my chin, and she said, she lifted my chin up and she says, "Don't you ever hold your head down again.
Right.
This is not your fault."
Absolutely.
And those words, they rang out in my soul for years. I never saw her again. So I want you to know that the words that you're saying over them, they will continue to ring out in their soul. And I remember just the power behind her words that said, "Hey, this is not your fault." And she literally put her hand under my chin and said, "Don't you ever hold your head down.
Right.
You have nothing to be ashamed of. It would be years down the road before I would actually believe that I had nothing to be ashamed of. But those words just kept coming to me.
With you.
And I am 50 years old, and I still remember those words.
Absolutely.
So I just want to thank you for everything that you do there at the Teal House and the words that you speak over those kids.
Absolutely.
Your voice is making a difference. I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
I want you to share some of the stories, maybe this week or maybe last week, of something that's really impacted you and the hope that you're giving them. I know you're giving them hope by being there and by being a voice, but what are some other things that you're doing individually for these kids or adults?
Okay. We've since the pandemic, our caseload has doubled.
I bet.
You have children at home. Schools are opening up, so we are preparing ourselves for when they go back to school, because sometimes that's the only person that they trust. So we're preparing for that. But more recently, the cases that we have been dealing with has been those of children that are in the home with parents, step parents, if they're left with grandparents, if they're left with uncles. This week alone, I have interviewed 5 children. And out of those 5, not one of those are their perpetrator, if I can say, or the alleged perpetrator is a stranger.
Right.
So we're looking at things as these are people that they know. These are people that they trust. They're people that they love. So it's very hard for them to sit in front of me to tell me what Uncle John has done.
Yeah.
Why he was keeping her when mom had to work the night shift. How one particular incident where stepdaddy came into the room while she was in her bed. And we're talking about a 5 or 6 year old child. We're not talking about a teenager.
Right.
We're talking about a 5 or 6 year old. Stepdaddy comes into her room, performs oral sex.
Wow.
And then makes her perform oral sex.
Wow.
Tells her he loves her, but not to tell.
Wow.
Not to tell.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah. Not to tell. We see a lot of grooming. I've had cases this week where there's a lot of grooming. Has started off with this one particular case, started off, let me get you something, your favorite meal. Every kid pretty much loves a happy meal. Okay. When mom's going to work, I got dinner. And then, remember I bought you that happy meal, so this is what you're going to do for me.
Wow.
So it starts with just something so innocent as a happy meal to turn in something, such a horrific crime in the end, which devastates these children and causes traumatic experiences for them.
Yes, I remember that so vividly when my mother met my stepfather. They were dating at the time. We were living in the housing projects. We were so poor, and I got all my clothes from the garage sales, and local churches would bring us food. We were hungry most of the time, and so when she married him, the grooming that began then is, I'm going to take you shopping and buy whatever you want.
Right.
You're going to get brand new clothes, and then I want you to try them on for me, but I want to see you change the clothes. It's just going to be you and me, and when you're changing, I'm going to watch.
Right.
And I'm 10 years old at the time, not thinking, like my dad, my real father, had never asked me to do anything like that, But now my stepfather, and I'm confused, and I don't know what to do. But he did just buy me all these clothes, and he does put food on the table.
So it's okay.
So I guess it's okay. He's the adult here. I'm the child. So you don't know what to do. So how did this 5-year-old little girl tell somebody? How was it revealed?
What she did, when we interview as a certified forensic interviewer, we learn that there are 2 types of disclosure: accidental and purposeful. So if she's playing with her dolls and she's mimicking this behavior, and mom just happens to hear her because she's playing with her dolls, and so we consider that an accidental disclosure.
Right.
She didn't mean for mom to hear her.
Right.
But thank God
she did.
Mom heard her.
Oh, wow.
Thank God. So mom, of course mom panicked, because that's what any parent would do. And we tell parents it's okay. It's okay, because that's a natural response. But also, that child don't want to upset mom. So once mom talked to her, and of course she believed her, which we don't have a lot of parents that believe their children, but thank God again she did. She called law enforcement while he was at work, and from there he was the main breadwinner in the family. So mom again had all this against her as well.
Yeah.
So with the Teal house, we're able to provide resources with mom as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
With her being, with him being the main breadwinner, and her not wanting to keep her child in the environment with defects getting involved. She can't. Either dad gotta go or the family has to go. Mom and child.
Right.
So not more often than we would like to see families stay together, which only keeps the children in further harm.
Right.
So, but this particular mom left. She left. And with our help, with DFAC's help, then she's getting her on her feet.
Wow.
She's going to.
That's powerful. And I think the voice of the police and the social workers, they made a difference in the little girl's life too, and just letting her know, hey, this is not your fault, and we're going to get you help. And I think at that age there is something that's being formed in their little mind
so
too. Impressionable that this is what love is. So you can get confused about, and the older you get, because there's many people that I counsel with right now that things started happening not at 10 and 11, but it was 5, 6 years old, and by 10 years old they're being full-blown raped. And and my grooming started at 10 years old, and I just can't wrap my mind around why a man would want a 5-year-old little girl. It just blows my mind. So what would you tell a parent or a teacher or a leader in the church, maybe a youth minister, some things that they could look for, like this mom, she just accidentally ran into it. What are some things that people can look for to know that, hey, something may be going on there. Let's look into it.
In our education and awareness, when we are talking to folks in the community, we want to make sure that our parents know their children, first of all. They know their children. They are supervising their children, what they're watching on TV, what they have on their phone. But the number one thing that they need to, when children begin to isolate, that is a clear-cut sign. And of course, I've had some parents to say, well, when they go through the teenage phase and they don't want to talk to us, they back off. This is true. But if you have an outgoing child and then they all of a sudden wants to shut down, they don't want friends over, they don't want to be involved in activities or social groups, if they were involved in a social ministry club here at the church, and if they don't want to be involved, then the more they have to talk to people, they feel like if I isolate myself, I don't have to tell. So that is the number one thing that we encourage parents to look for, or church leaders, or different things. If a child begins to display affections where they just shutting down, they not displaying affection, they shut down, they don't want to talk, when on a normal basis they're speaking, they're literally jolly all the time, then you may want to say, hey, is everything going okay? Is there something that you want to tell me, you want to talk to me about? Confiding, a child confiding, knowing that they can trust you is a big plus. That's a plus.
Yes.
If they feel like they can't trust you or confide in you, they're not going to.
Right.
Yeah. They're not going to. And that's what we do to encourage leaders when we're out at the schools doing professional development for teachers and families that come in that just need some advocacy, some emotional support.
Right.
What do we do? What do we need to further look for? I would definitely advise them, supervise your children for one. If they say you're getting in my business, get in their business.
That's right. Amen.
Get all
you
in
are
their
my
business. Exactly. Tell them to be careful with social media. Social media is a great platform for certain things, but it can also it is the number one trigger for kids being able to display body pictures, videos. So I tell them, parents, just if your child has TikTok or Facebook, put it on your phone. So whenever they get messages, you get messages. So you know what's going on.
That's good.
So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's where a lot of parents see what's going on. Yeah.
Well, with One Voice, I have a campaign that we do. We reach out to the school systems.
Right.
So we go out and I get to tell my story, but I also share with them what's the difference between a healthy touch and an unhealthy touch, and what is abuse, because some people are abused and they don't even know it.
They don't know it.
Because it's just a lifestyle. What's a spanking?
Right.
What's a normal spanking and a beating? What's the difference between the two? And how far does abuse go with a spanking? And with my stepfather, it wasn't just a spanking, a switch, or a ruler on the hand. It was ball your fist up, hit you in the face, kick you in the stomach, throw you across the room. Those things are not discipline. That's abuse.
No, that is
complete abuse. And
that's abuse.
And then we teach them also that if someone, a stepfather, an uncle, a brother, anybody wants to watch you take a shower, that's very inappropriate.
Right.
You don't need to let anybody do that. If somebody says they want to watch you change clothes, because that's how it begins. Let me just watch you.
Right.
And like you said, I just bought you McDonald's now. You do this for me. And so do you guys have similar things that you tell people?
All the time.
Yeah.
Almost daily.
Almost daily.
Almost daily, to be honest with you. But if we can just keep in the forefront of, if something in your gut does not feel right, because usually at an early age, children know right from wrong, or they're beginning to learn right from wrong.
Yeah.
And like I had the 6-year-old say, it just didn't feel right, Miss LaKeidre. So we let them know, if it don't feel right, tell someone. Tell someone, and then let that adult decipher between, and then further educate you on that. But a lot of our kids, when they come there, they already know that was a bad, unhealthy touch. And the trust issues and the boundaries has already been, it's gone. It's gone. So they pretty much know that, okay, he crossed the line when he just kind of swooped past me and brushed up against me. Or I had one young lady, they were remodeling their house, and her aunt, and I just want to say something, Pastor Swanson, we always think as women that the alleged perpetrators are men. That's the biggest myth.
Yes, it is.
That's the biggest myth. Because in this particular case, it was her aunt that kept brushing on her. So she was like, okay, we got the same body parts, so it's okay. But she had dust on her they were just remodeling the house, so she kept doing it. And she said, at first, Miss LaKeidre, it was fine, but I just thought it was weird. Then she came around and she was doing my butt. And she said that really felt uncomfortable. Then days later, she came into the shower and started touching her.
Wow.
Then she knew, but it was the progression that, okay, I'll start with your clothes on, and then later your clothes off. So for one, we're looking at the gender. It's not your typical what we think. And then again, this is a family member, so you can be assaulted by different genders. It's not not just the male.
That's right.
And males can be victims as well.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen it so many times here. And when I first wrote my book, it was mostly, I had more males that reached out to me than I did females at the beginning, because they were like, I need someone to talk to.
Right.
You know, and there's a story of a man that he was very successful in business, but after reading my book, he said, I need prayer. Can you please pray for me? My stepfather raped me over and over as a teenage boy at 13, 14, 15 years old. And he says, I hate him.
Right.
And so then you have to work through those issues. And one thing that we see is that when kids have been abused and they don't say anything and nobody does believe them, when they become adults, they carry that baggage into the marriage and into relationships, or they have a confused identity.
Absolutely.
They're seeking for drugs, or let me just have a great career, and the more I climb the ladder, that's going to soothe my soul, but it never does.
It does not.
It never does. So I have found that God is our source and our resource, and the only one that can go in and really heal us from the pains of our past. But we were talking earlier today with someone that God can't reveal. I mean, God cannot heal you of things that you don't reveal and that you don't want to deal with. So we have to talk about it, and we have to be open. And I found for many years in the church didn't want to address it.
No, ma'am.
Because it's too shameful.
They do not want to.
No.
When I first got this position, and one of my things, I just wanted everybody to know about the Teal House, because I lived in a community and I knew of it, but I didn't know what was going on. And I'm a social worker, so I know all the resources. But for the Teal House, I said, I never really hear anything about the Teal House. So when I got this job, I wanted to make sure that people knew what the Teal House mission was, that we dealt with. We do direct services to victims. This is not just something that we call on the phone. It's face to face. We do direct services. And I know as an African American woman, we go to the church for refuge a lot of times.
That's right.
And that's just culture wise. And we have a hard time trusting therapists, and that's why a lot of therapists say it's okay culture wise, and we push it as well. So I wanted to touch therapy and the churches, and the pushback that I received just right here in this local community, I was really, really surprised.
Wow.
But then as I began to go, and my face was shown in the community more, and I started speaking at local civic organization meetings, and those people will take it back to the church. So I felt like that's how I was able to get into the church then. But it has to be talked about. Yes. Domestic violence, sexual assault. We are the sisters to each other.
That's right.
We have to talk about it.
Amen. Because
it's going on. And I'm a firm believer like you. God is our source. He's our refuge. It says that in the word. Right. So, and that's sometimes what that's the only hope that they have sometimes. They don't put their trust in other folks.
That's right.
So what better way to make the awareness known than going into the house of the Lord?
That's right. That's right. And laying it all and say, Lord, I need you, and this is what I need you to do today. So just real quick, what are some lessons you think that you've learned by just working with the Teal House, and what have you learned by that? What has God shown you in
Not
this?
to judge.
Okay. I love it.
Really, not to judge. Believe survivors. I keep saying that, but believe them. If they tell you that they have been assaulted, my assault may not look like your assault.
Right.
Okay, but believe them.
That's right.
And do not judge them. Well, that's not as bad as mine. Believe them and don't judge them. That was the biggest lesson that I've had. And before I started working there were so many stereotypes of college girls. You know, they go into parties, they're going to get drunk, they're going to get raped.
Right.
Biggest myth. We have girls come in from Georgia Southern, you know, they're not at clubs. Right. They're not at parties, they still get raped.
Exactly.
they still get sexual assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have those that do go out with friends after
Mm-hmm.
football games,
Mm-hmm.
not drinking, they
Mm-hmm.
get assaulted.
Right.
So that biggest myth is that they're out, they're drinking, they're partying, they get raped.
Right.
That's a myth.
Right.
That is a myth.
Right. I believe that. And I know of someone in particular that, and it's always from somebody they know.
Absolutely.
It's not a stranger.
It's not
like
a
you would think
stranger.
that it would be, like you see on TV all the time, right?
Mm-mm.
These are people that they know, they're friends that they hang out with.
Absolutely.
And this girl was 16 years old, and she was just hanging out with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was leaving, and she was about to leave, and these 5 boys trapped her.
Absolutely.
And took her in a bedroom, and they all took turns with her. She was devastated by it. She went home. She did tell her mom about it, and her mom said, well, we're just not going to tell anybody. You'll get over it. So you just don't get over something like that.
Mm-mm. You don't.
You need counseling. You need God. And
need
God
support.
will, you need support. You need brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
You need a spiritual mom and daddy in your life, and people that can just take you under their wing and
Absolutely.
love on you and nurture you back to
Absolutely.
health again. So, statistics say that 1 out of every 4 girls is abused before the age of 12.
Absolutely.
And I think 1 out of every 6 or 7 boys before the age of 12. And it's always by someone.
It's always
By someone they know that's near to them. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt now that there is someone out there listening
right.
that they need encouragement. They need to hear this message. And I just want you to share with us from your heart, what is the word that you can give them today that can bring them hope and that you can encourage them just to keep going?
I want you to listen to me and listen to me good. I believe you. We believe you.
Yes.
Everyone at the Teal house believes you. We don't even know the situation. We don't know what has happened, but we believe you. And also, this is not your fault. If you have not consented to anything, this is not your fault.
Yes.
And I need to say that again. This is not your fault.
That's so good.
Whatever the situation was, we believe you.
That's right.
And on this journey, you can survive it. You will become, you are now, if you feel victimized, it is with us, with the help of the Lord, that you will be a survivor through this healing journey.
Yeah.
It takes time, it takes counseling, but you have options. You have options. If you want to reach out to us, we do have a 24/7 hotline. And I want to give that number if I may.
Yes, please.
It's
do.
1-866-489-2225. Call us. We have advocates that are on the call waiting to speak with you. And on that call, if you want to just listen to what the advocates have to say,
That's right.
providing emotional support, letting you know what your options are. It's not we're quickly calling law enforcement, because you have the option whether you want to report it or not.
Right. Right.
A lot of victims think that they have to report immediately, and you
Right.
don't.
You don't.
You don't. You have 12 months to report, but
That's
you
right.
have a lifetime of healing.
Amen. Amen. You know, a lot of people, LaKeidre, like I was at 12 years old, I didn't see a way out, so I thought suicide was the only way out.
No.
And I actually planned my suicide, but I had an encounter with God because
Absolutely.
I prayed right before I was going to do it. And He heard me.
Yes.
And when He heard me, He came to me and He spoke to me. And I just remember feeling His presence above all things. And He said to me, you need to tell somebody.
Yes.
Your life
Yes.
matters. Your life is important. I know the plans that I have for you. So I just want to speak that same word
Yes.
into someone else today, that the Lord says, I know the plans I have for you, and they're good.
They're good plans.
And they're to prosper you. And with the Lord's help, you're going to get through this.
Absolutely. You're
And
gonna heal.
suicide is not
It's
the
not-
answer.
It's never the answer.
No, it's not.
It's never the answer. Sometimes people look at that as the quick way out.
Yeah.
But it's never the answer. Never. It's a journey. It's a healing process. But as long as you have support, if you attend a church, your pastor, I know my pastor and his wife, they're big supporters of me. My family, you asked me earlier about how taking it home. I have to dump on my husband sometimes.
There you go. That's good.
So, if you have family support, if you feel like you just cannot talk to someone, you can talk to us. You can talk to that voice over the hotline. We're not going to judge you. But suicide is never the answer.
That's right. And I also want you guys to know, we know that the Lord has plans for you and they're good. But I want you to know that I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, neglect, and abandonment. I went through foster care. I know what all of that feels like. I know the pain. I know the suffering, the journey that you're going down. And I want you to know there's hope on the other side.
It is hope.
And your past doesn't have to define you. But if you want to be healed, really want to be healed, and you want to get through this, you got to find forgiveness. You got to find God. You got to let Him come in and speak to your heart and do a brand new thing, because that's exactly what He did to me.
Absolutely.
And it was His voice that made the biggest difference in my life, that kept me from killing myself and has sustained me for all of these years. So we just want to speak that into you. Listen, not only am I a survivor, but I am thriving now. I'm helping other people, and I'm loving on other people, and I just want to encourage you, keep going.
Yes, it is possible. It is possible.
Yes, all things are possible.
That's right.
With the Lord.
With
all
the Lord.
Things. So, LaKeidre, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, gosh, you're such a blessing. Such a blessing to all our listeners and to all those in the community right now. You're just a blessing, and I thank God for you. And we're going to begin to pray for you in the Teal House. And if you want to connect with the Teal House and you want to support them, if someone wants to support or donate, how can they donate to the Teal House today?
Well, we have a platform that's going on now. We're on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. Because of COVID, we have not been able to do our normal fundraisers. So we are now, if you want to just call us to make a donation, you can go to our website, you can go on Facebook. We have all kind of avenues. But above all, we need prayer. We need prayer.
Yes.
Above the money, we need prayer, because I always say it takes special people to sit on the other side to listen to these stories.
That's right.
And to have a genuine heart to help these victims that come in. We love to hear stories that come in. I've survived a year, Miss LaKeidre. They come back sometimes on their anniversary just to say, I'm here and I'm doing good.
Right.
So give us a call. Use the hotline number. Our office number is 912-489-6060.
Do you have a website?
We do have a website. It's www.srsac for Statesboro Regional Sexual Assault Center.org.
Okay.
So there you can learn more about the Teal House, and then help us. We do have a wish list on Amazon as well, because when the victims come in, we provide them with clothing, so and snacks and food. So there is a wish list that's on the website as well.
That's beautiful. So we'll connect with you right there on your website.
Yes, that would be great.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the podcast today.
Thank you so much.
And we just declare that one voice is making a difference.
It is.
And together we can make a difference, touching one life at a time.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to One Voice Makes a Difference. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing and reviewing the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends about One Voice too. Your voice helps the show reach more people to spread the gospel. Together, with all of our voices, we can come out of the darkness and into the light. If you'd like to hear more about Janet's personal story, you can purchase her book, One Voice, on her website, janetswanson.org. You can also connect with her on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Most importantly, if you are in crisis, please call the 24/7 crisis hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Don't wait. Your life matters.